Today I'm going to turn the dirt floor part of my basement into a concrete floor, like the rest of my basement. Don't ask me how it got here. Oh, and I'm going to do it with 80 bags of Quickcrete. Now I know what you're thinking. Why not just summon a truck instead of dealing with bag concretes, bro? Well, because it isn't cost effective for my situation. My yard is completely fenced in and I can't get a truck back here. Now a pump truck could work, but do I look like I'm made out of money? If I was doing the entire basement, then yeah, it would be a different story. But we're just doing an 8x12 pad. So I'm gonna be doing things the entertaining way. I've pulled just enough dirt out of this infernal pit for a 4-inch base course of pea gravel and about 4 to 5 inches of concrete. That 8 to 9 inches is going to get me relatively lined up with the existing slab. It's a little complicated because the existing slab is concave to slope toward that drain, but these are problems for future me. Present me's problem is getting a couple tons of pea gravel down here. Now, pea gravel as a base course doesn't work for every situation, but it is useful for areas like this where it's difficult to get a heavy compactor. It's on top of hard clay, so it's not likely to do much moving around under the slab. Frankly, I've been watching this exposed area for a few years now, and it doesn't get very much moisture. One of the shortcomings of pea gravel is its tendency to displace underfoot, which can really make it a pain in the you-know-what during the pour. We'll throw a piece of plywood or something down there when we get to that part. But yeah, pea gravel is... Oh, wait a second. Now, obviously I got the concrete down here already. Great, here goes nothing. No, that's an old clip. Here's how I really did it. Now that that's all taken care of, we gotta put a vapor barrier down on top of all this here pea gravel. As the name implies, this is basically a giant garbage bag that prevents moisture transmission into the concrete. The rest of the slab was poured before moisture barriers were a thing, and does have some moisture issues, so at least one part of the floor will be dry. You don't really need expansion joints for jobs like this. They can be useful for mitigating slab movement and cracking, but as you can see, the ones I'm putting in don't even go all the way down. They're here purely for reference to help me grade the concrete. This particular slab will be tricky because the perimeter thickness will be about 5 inches with a gradual grade approaching 4 inches in the center to match the existing slab. The slab will be roughly 9 foot by 12 foot at 5 inches deep. I have 80 bags on reserve, but it should really be closer to 75 or less to get us out of here. The biggest concern is getting it all mixed up and on the floor before it starts to go off. The limiting factor is the amount of time it takes to mix a batch times the number of batches. Oh, and did I mention I'm doing it all in one go? Stands to reason, the fewer batches I need to mix, the less time it will take. All I need is a big-ass mixer. This bad boy can fit so many bags. I think 8? I don't even know if I can handle that many. We'll start small and work our way up. Boy, this thing was a real pain in the ass to get down here. I had to disassemble 2 door frames just to fit the drum. Regardless, this thing will be the ticket to our salvation. And a few other things. Okay, I got my float, bull float extension pole, extension cord, trowel, towel, rain boots, water buckets, water, bags, rags, mixer, power, lights, camera, action gauntlets, knee pads, shovel, rake, respirator, goggles, screed, and 1 emotional support photograph. Whew, I think that's everything. We might just pull this thing off. All right, people, it's showtime. Pro tip, use actual goggles instead of safety glasses. My eyes caught fire every time I had to open these bags up. While you're at it, cover every part of your body because the dust gets everywhere and it will f*** you up. I started with 5 bags of concrete because it seemed like just as good an amount as any. The mixer felt balanced enough, and I've dealt with very heavy machinery before. But when you add it all up, the concrete is 400 pounds, the mixer is 190 pounds, and the water is another 50 pounds. The slight slope in my floor toward the infernal pit made it very difficult to maneuver, especially if I didn't get some sort of running start. It's also way heavier than you, so if it wants to go, it's taking you with it. Which leads me to mistake number 2. Don't tip a fully loaded mixer with the drum turned on. It's rare to get an amusement park level thrill in the comfort of your own home, but still, I can't in good conscience recommend this ride. Jesus, really? I'm like not even 2 minutes into this thing. I've got like 70 bags to go. To be fair, this is the consistency the Quick Creek bags say you should mix it to. Given how hard it was to turn the mixer, I opted to just dump my loads right in the middle and shovel wherever they needed to go. More water definitely started to make the mixes look more promising. You don't want too much water in these though, because you risk losing strength. I shoveled in all the way around the walls first to give myself a solid reference for screeding later in case the early mixes set up too quickly. As soon as I felt I had secured the perimeter, I did some quick floating. This is the beginning of the smoothing process that pushes the aggregate down and brings the cream up. From there, it was really about building on that perimeter in a horseshoe fashion, leaving the middle toward the existing slab as an escape. Dump some muck, shovel, float, mix, repeat. The way of the horseshoe. With sufficient mix down, I pull out the big screed. I had an 8-foot, 10-foot, and 12-foot board on hand, but you know what they say, size does matter, and the 12-footer took out most of the guesswork. I didn't mention it earlier, but I mixed 5 bags at a time for the entire pour. Though I'm fairly certain I lost count and mixed 6 bags a few times. It was a lot to wrestle that thing, but time was of the essence, and any less would have fit into a smaller mixer I wouldn't have had to pull door frames apart for. Remember how the first few mixes were too dry? Well, I based my calculations for having enough water on hand for the amount the bags recommended, but since these mixes actually needed more water, I started to run out. So what you're not seeing is me running into the laundry room between mixes and leaving the water running in empty buckets. It wasn't the end of the world, just another f***ing thing. Honestly, there is no point in this process where I felt like, I think I got this. It was more like, I think today would be a fine day to die, and stuff like that. It was pretty much an open throttle state of panic the entire time. But right around here I did start to think, well, at least the labor will be over soon. I was hand floating everything as best I could as I was backing off the floor. But as the water started to rise, some imperfections made themselves known. So I busted out the bull float and did what I could to smooth everything out from dry land. Now, I'm sure I'm going to get plenty of shit for this, but I didn't do a finishing pass with the trowel later on because this floor is fated to be diamond ground in preparation for an epoxy coating. I wasn't worried about making everything baby's butt smooth. Oh, come on, I just said why I didn't do it. Oh, whatever, I don't even care anymore. The floor doesn't look too bad, but this place is an absolute disaster. All my clothes are ruined, and I still gotta clean out this mixer and get it out of here. All in all, not too bad. Honestly, better than I thought it would turn out. I was noticing dark spots as it was setting up, and I was worried there were pinholes, but they're really just organics that came with the mix. There's nothing to worry about. There are a few blisters if you look closely. Basically, air can get trapped in concrete as it cures for a lot of different reasons. The culprit in this case is most likely floating too soon, or the vapor barrier preventing water from being absorbed into the subgrade. Usually you would vibrate these things out or get them on a finishing pass. The good news is, there's not enough here to cause concern. I can maybe count
1 or 2.
It is something I didn't know existed until I saw them on this floor. So if you're as ignorant as I was, consider yourself a tad wiser. I don't want to speak too soon, but I think it's over. Would I call this project a success? Yeah, why not? Did I save money? I'm sure I did. Would I recommend you do this by yourself?
No, I would not.
Listen, I'm not here to tell you what you are or are not capable of. All I'm saying is if I was going to do this over again, I would have taken up my friends and family that all offered to help when I told them I was doing this. Thanks, guys. You can help me pour the driveway. I'm someone who generally likes the challenge of a good solo DIY project. Maybe you are too. But in this case, there was 5 or 6 separate times when I thought I was royally screwed. I couldn't see because there was dust in my eyes. I ran out of water, concrete started going off early, I barrel rolled the mixer, and there was a few times that drum was so heavy, I didn't know if I was going to be able to get it back up. I've worked with concrete before, but never at this scale. Obviously, I didn't know everything. There's just too many things that can go wrong to not have a backup. And I suppose this time, I just got lucky. If you found this video helpful, go ahead and ravage that like and subscribe button. If you like what I do and want to support the channel, you can check out my online store, mujincontact.com, or I like coffee too. As always, thanks for hanging out with me today, guys. Thanks for watching. Godspeed.